Bump, 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 bump. Oh, wow. That's strange. Hmm. Well, I think we are going to be using this mic here. That's kind of strange because I did not. Hey, I got a couple of you out there. I'm just for some reason trying to figure out what happened with my sound. Looks like I've had another one of those cases of my sound may or may not be working. So if you can hear me, let me know while I sort out technical difficulties, which always seem to happen just about every time I start one of these. What's up from Louisiana? Hey, Will, how are you? Can you hear me? That's the question I need to know right off. Sometimes, can you hear me, guys? Can you hear me now? There seems to be technical difficulties going on with my mic. Let's see if it allows me to make that change here. Webcam. That seems to be working. And let's see. I don't see the mic recording, etc. Loud and clear. Oh, good. Awesome. Thank you for that. Because I think I'm using every time I set one of these up, the computer wants to decide whether to use the webcam mic or whether I use that guy there. And so sometimes I tell it to use, I always try to use the webcam mic, but for some reason, when I've been editing videos and I'm using this mic as my voiceover mic, the system just gets confused. So while we wait for some folks to show up, as always, like Will, let me know where you're from. I'd appreciate it and who you are, so I know who's out there and the other side of that video camera, because I can't see you. So, and I don't get to see who's on the other end. So if you drop a note down in the chat below, it always helps me out. That way I know who I'm talking to. So, but so far I know we've got several of you out there. And I got Will in Louisiana. Where in Louisiana are you at? You know, I worked in, and I was told it was called Monroe. And oh gosh, that was back in '99. I was working for Nortel Networks, building cell towers, and there was a guy there that I was working with, and this guy decided to go a little too fast down a road that teed off kind of above a bank and a field before the Red River. Do you see where this is going? He was drinking a little too much and probably doing about 70 miles an hour going down that road. And I don't know if he fell asleep or what, but he ended up going for a swim and they never found the car. I got a call at, it was like 3:00 in the morning, and I got a call. I got a knock at the door. I think that's what it was. Somebody knocked on my door. It's 3:00 in the morning. And I'm going, who the heck is knocking at my door? It's 3:00 in the morning. What was the police? The guy had given my name as a contact when they had arrested him. They'd found him walking down the street soaking wet after he got out of the river. And no, this has nothing to do with the channel or sawmilling. I'm just killing time while I wait for a few people to join us. Cato Cheeto. I got Caterpillar something, and it looks like a laser gun and a mouse. Where are you from? That Cato Cheeto. So you are on the keto diet and you cheat. But anyway, so I got a you know, the police, the sheriff actually has me go with him. I had to sit in the back of the police car. I was not amused. 3:00 in the morning. I'm not amused, folks. And go pick this guy up and take responsibility for him, which I also wasn't amused about. But the guy did lose his job, though. But they never found the car. East Tennessee, right on. I can't speak tonight. East Tennessee, right on. So East Tennessee, I think that's out where Nathan is. Also, you know what? if you got a certain kind of sawmill, that's always nice to know too. And if you throw your questions out early, usually I start these things and I give it, it's just 5:30 right now. And I always tend to start a few minutes early just to kind of make sure that my mic and everything's working. But if you've got questions, I usually do a channel update before I start answering questions. So here's a little trick for you. Put the questions in early, and I go back and I will go through each question. So if I see a question and I'm given a channel update, I'm going to answer that question in order that I get them. Unless, of course, someone throws a super sticker or something like that out there, then I always answer those right then and there. So just an FYI, LT15 Go, right on. I started on an LT10, by the way, that I made into an LT10 Go. So that was an adventure. It was quite an adventure. But I was talking on Forestry Forum earlier today. Well, not talking, but chatting on Forestry Forum earlier today, and we were talking about one of the new Wood-Mizer mills, and I called it the Gateway Mill. Right, the LT10, the LT15, the LX 2555, the new LX 50 Super. To me, those are the gateway mills because they're going to get you addicted to the drug of sawmilling, and then you end up with an LT40 like me or worse. In fact, I just had a guy I know apparently just picked up his LT70. So he went from a smaller mill, I believe, to the LT40 to now the LT70, and he kept his LT40, but he's kept pretty busy. So. And Will, I don't remember what kind of mill you've got either. Actually, I'm assuming you have one. I always assume that, but I could be wrong. You never know. But all right, we'll give it another couple of minutes here just to see who we get joining. But any questions you've got, like I said, throw them out early on. I do always get back to them. So, but yeah, that's my Red River story. Cooks. Okay, all right. The Cooks makes good mills. In fact, while we're waiting, I'll tell you, I actually got asked to do a research marketing type thing for a sawmill company. I don't actually know which company it was, but I think it was Woodland Mills. But the company was a DC company. They were like a company that gets hired to do market research. And because I'm on LinkedIn, have been for a very, very long time, they must have found me there and asked me if I'd be willing to talk to them. And I love talking sawmills, so why not, right? Sure, I'll do it. And Cooks was one of the ones I mentioned because they asked stuff, like what kind of mills have you heard of? What do you think are good mills? Blah, blah, Timber King, Woodland Mills, Cooks, those are all ones. Baker, that I mentioned. And I haven't run any mills but the Wood-Mizer mills. So, yeah, but I've been on Forestry Forum since 2009 or 2010. So I've been talking to people about sawmills for a very long time. And you kind of get a feel after a while for who's got good products out there. Excuse me. So, but I'm not familiar with the Cooks models, though, I don't think. And I almost think, let's see, I'm hoping to drum up some jobs advertising on Facebook. Yeah. Well, while we're waiting to see who we get here tonight, if you're not advertising on Craigslist, I will tell you this. I never got a single job from Facebook marketing, or marketplace. Not that you can't. I've talked to guys that have gotten jobs that way, but I never did. I even paid for advertising back in probably, maybe 2013, 14 time frame, as well as probably 17, maybe 18 time frame. But I found Craigslist to be one of the best places for me. Wood-Mizer Pro Sawyers list. I still get calls today from there. And another one would be to find out who the local, state university forester is, because they often have a list of transient sawyers, mobile portable sawyers, or whatever that you can, that you can hook up with them and get jobs. And they will actually, a lot of them I know out here, they will call you and say, hey, I got somebody that's got, 20 oak logs that they want to get milled up. You want the job or whatever. So State University Foresters, they're a great asset. Woodmiser Pro Sawyers Group, if you're not on there, join it. And it's, Pro Sawyers Group, you don't have to have sawn a board to get on that list. So, that's one that's worth doing. And again, Craigslist. And there's a couple ways Craigslist works really well. One of them is the for sale section. They don't like you to advertise businesses there, but you could put in, there's ways around that. Let's just put it that way. If you word your advertising just right. But I paid for it. I think it was like $3 for a month's worth of advertising on Craigslist. And what I did is, and I guys, if you haven't seen the video, I did a video. It's been a little while since I did it, but I paid for my LT40 in 13 months on weekends and holidays. And now, full disclosure, I did use the down payment from selling my LT10 and LT10, which was on a trailer, like an LT10 Go, as my down payment on the LT40, but still I paid for it in 13 months. And in 2 years, it had made 50% more profit than the full buying price of the mill, not including down payments or anything else. So you can do it, absolutely, but you gotta advertise everywhere, right? I was advertising 200 miles away, and because if you do your pricing right, then that'll work. So, all right, I see you got a good question there. I'm gonna get into that. What time do we got here? I'm gonna say let's just get to it. Get her done, right? Get her done, Jarhead. So, real quick channel update before I get into questions. So what's going on with the channel? I don't know if you guys watch all my videos, I didn't put one out Thursday. That's because I didn't have time to. I was up at my cabin setting up my sawmill in my new woodlot yard, sawmill yard, whatever you want to call it, and finally got milling back at the cabin again. So, of course, video coming out on that. But I think what you're going to find really exciting is I had my buddy Kevin Bales. And again, if you haven't seen those videos, there's some out there. If you've seen them all, you've probably seen it. But Kevin Bales has a wide head. His mill is 1 year newer than mine, and it's LT40 with the wide head. And I had a customer reach out to me with a black forest oak. And let me tell you guys, it is gorgeous, gorgeous wood. Beautiful. It's very, very similar to red oak. But it's technically a different species of oak, and it's called black forest oak. I was really surprised that the guy had this. So somehow, they got a sapling, whatever, they got it planted. This thing, I think the butt end of the bottom log spanned 38 inches. So big log, and he wanted some slabs as wide as he could get them. So discretion is a better part of valor, right? One, my back hasn't been doing great. I've had some really good periods since the ablations and everything. But it's still a bit tough for me to put in a good hard day's work like you need to on a portable job. But with a standard head mill, I wasn't going to be able to, cut 32-inch slabs, for example. And so I had Kevin come out and do the job instead, and I filmed it. So I will be bringing that to you. And I got to tell you, gorgeous, gorgeous wood. And I did something that I never get a chance to really do when filming a sawmill operation. And that is I had my leaf blower with me to clean off almost every piece that came off of those logs. And so I'm going to be able to show you those. I think you're going to love that. Absolutely amazing stuff. So black forest oak, I bet you haven't milled that. Probably haven't even heard about it. I hadn't. So anyway, so we've got some cabin milling, kind of cabin log yard stuff that I'll be doing, and then a bunch of this black forest oak. And I am going to try to continue to do 3 videos a week. So for those curious, where I ended up only doing 2 this past week, I do plan on continuing to try to do tongue twisted to do 3 a week still. We'll see if I can keep that through, but we will be doing some winter milling. And one of the videos I did up at the cabin is sawmill setup, but it included some winter milling kind of stuff. So I will be kind of getting into cold weather milling, and that'll be happening really soon too. So just know that lots is going on, lots of new video coming out, and I'll just keep at it. So and for those that watch shorts, I will be doing some more shorts. I know when I was working, I was talking about not doing any more shorts because a lot of my long form viewers don't like shorts, but I do have about 8,000 subscribers that like shorts. So I will kind of continue to do those, but I'm not going to be doing them like I was when it was insane and I was doing like 3 a day. So it's more likely to be 3 a week. So if you have notifications turned on and you were getting all these notifications for those 3 shorts a day as I was doing, you won't get that anymore. So, all right. Let's get into some questions here, and I'll start answering questions for you because that's pretty much all I got on the channel update stuff. Other than it's we're into November now. For those that don't know where I am, I don't like to pull my mill anymore when the roads get ugly and it starts to get cold out. I used to. I've pulled my mill in the snow, almost lost it more than once. And decided eventually that no insurance in the world's worth losing a mill when it takes a year and a half to get another one, right? Not doing it. So it's probably going to stay. In fact, I'd say 99.9% sure it's going to stay at the cabin. But that means you're going to get some unique videos this year because when it's in 2 feet of snow, I will still run my sawmill. So you may get to see some interesting sawmilling videos this winter. But all right, let me get to your questions here. The first one that I saw, I did answer I think I answered the drumming up the jobs. I hope you caught that about advertising on Craigslist and all that. So good price per board foot. I'm going to tell you right now, for softwoods, I still think a lot of guys are still charging around 40 cents a board foot. And my personal view on mobile jobs is that the board foot rates aren't really the best way to go. And I know a lot of guys that do it. I've talked to, believe me, I've talked to hundreds of sawyers, and I understand the methodology and the reasoning behind it. But I also know a lot of mobile sawyers that's pretty much all they do is mobile sawing, or they do a lot of it like I did. That's all I did. I other than sawing for myself at my cabin, I was 100% mobile. Milling by the board foot was not the best option. And the reason is you never know how fast your customers are going to work. You never know how big their logs are going to be. You don't know how good the logs are going to be or the site's going to be. A lot of times you roll up on site, even if you try to do site walks, which is something I always try to do. But I would have jobs that are 250 miles away, and there's no way the customer doesn't want to pay me to drive up there and do a site walk. So you go by pictures, and you get up there, and they're all 9-inch dug firs, 16-inch long, and the help doesn't show up. And if you're charging by the board foot, you're making $30 an hour. So I don't do that. I charge by the hour, and my hourly rate, and I've done a video about this. So if you go back and look, there's a playlist on building your sawmill business in there somewhere. My rate was $100 an hour up to this year. If I was going to continue to do mobile sawing this year, it'd be 125, maybe more, but I think 125 is still pretty fair. And I base that on a couple things. One, if you take your car into the shop and get it worked on, it's going to be 150 to 180 bucks an hour. People are used to those rates because they're paying it for everybody else. So don't sell yourself short. Two, my philosophies followed that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 rule, which is Uncle Sam gets a third of what you make. He might not, but that's what I plan on so that I don't ever get caught, meaning caught with my pants down and not enough to give Uncle Sam. Excuse me. 1/3 for the sawmill, the business itself, right? Maintenance, blades, fixing the mill, replacing things, upgrades, Logrite can hooks, or whoever you want to use. I use Logrite. They don't sponsor me. They're just the best I've ever seen. But that I squashed a chainsaw. $1,200 saw got squashed. It was going to cost me $1,200 to rebuild it. Well, that money's got to come from somewhere. So my philosophy is if you need to make $30 an hour, then you need to charge 90. It doesn't matter what mill you have, doesn't matter what your production rates are. None of that matters, because if you go into a job site because you got, say, an LT10 on a trailer like I used to, and you think, well, I should only be charging $50 an hour because the LT40 guy's charging 100. Well, by the time you do your maintenance and everything else, you're making maybe $10 an hour if you're lucky. And don't forget, it's going to take you 4 hours to get ready to go to the job. You got to drive to the job. When you're done, you got to drive home. You got tear down, set up. And when you get home, you got to unload, you got to clean, you got to do the maintenance, you got to replace your, get your bands resharpened and everything else. So my view is look at what you need to earn as an individual working, what you feel is a decent wage for all the work that you're going to do, and then triple that, and that's your rate. And of course, then you can adjust that based on market, right? So if you put out a rate of $90 an hour and you can't get work, well, maybe you need to lower your price. But it could be, by the way, that your prices are too low. And I've actually had people come to me and say, I went to you because you were the middle guy. This guy was 75 an hour, you're 100, this guy's 150. Looks like you know what you're doing. I'm going to go with you. And so the guy that was charging 75 an hour never got the job. So just something to think about. So hopefully that kind of helps you out with that. I will tell you that that's a big question. I see that question all the time. And I think you could look up going rates. Like Forestry Forum is a great, and I'm not affiliated with them. I've just been there a long time. It's a great asset. I'll tell you that at $40 an hour, if you're milling 300 board feet an hour, or $40 a board foot, sorry, and you're milling 300 board feet an hour, that's $120 an hour. Guess what I mill on average on my LT40 hydraulic that's rated at 550 board feet an hour? I mill on average about 300 board feet an hour. It's not because I can't mill over 500. I have. Absolutely. I've done it for 8 hours straight. But to do that, you've got to have all the right equipment, all the right logs, all the right help. Everything's got to be, the stars got to be aligned just right in the world. Most people on an LT40, for example, mill 300 board feet an hour. And so if you're charging 40 cents a board foot and you're averaging 300 board feet an hour, you're making 120 an hour. And I just said I'd probably be charging 125 an hour, and I don't charge by the board foot. So you can kind of do that math. I'll tell you that if you look at Home Depot prices, I wouldn't try to compete with them because, as I always tell everybody, they don't take their Home Depot store up into the woods where all those logs are, where the guy's trying to build the cabin. So you're providing a different service. You're providing the sawmill, the knowledge on how to make the lumber, and you're going to do it on site. You're providing so much more than just a guy walking back and forth on a sawmill. So don't ever sell yourself short. Okay. All right, Bill. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you're still there. Don't go away. I always try to answer questions in order. So Paul Z, your question's next. What size blades do I run? 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches? Yes. That's your answer. I started on 1.25 inch bands. I've got somewhere north of 80 bands, 75 or 80 or 90, or I don't even know how many bands I have anymore, because before Wood-Mizer shut down Resharp, they were limited on how many bands they had. So I'd send 15 in and get 12 or 13 back. And they'd say, oh, sorry, we didn't have any of those. So my plan, once I decided to make the switch to 1.5 inches, is I would not buy any more 1.25 inch bands. I would only buy 1.5 inches. So I told Wood-Mizer on there. I was on the Wood-Mizer Resharp program where they replace bands if they're bad. So I would tell them, look, anytime you see a bad band, you replace it with a 7-degree 1.5 inch, period. Unless it's a bimetal, then 10-degree bimetal 1.5 inch. Otherwise, 7 degrees, replace everything. The only other caveat I had, if I send you a 4-degree band, you replace that with a 4-degree. But if it's 10, 9, 7, I want 7s back. And that is my favorite band. I like 4s a lot, but to me, 7s probably cut the fastest, cut the best in almost everything. I will run 7s before I run anything else, unless I'm in widewood or super knotty, extra hard knots, knots this big. Then I'll probably switch to a bimetal if I have them with me. The problem is on mobile jobs, even if you take 45 bands with you, which I've done on long stretch mobile jobs where I'm doing a job here and then driving 100 miles, doing a job there, driving 150 miles, doing a job there. I'll take 45 bands, but it's going to be 7s, 4s. And if I run out of 7s and 4s because they're getting resharp, then I'll take bimetal 10s. And if I don't have any more of those, then I'll break down and take regular double hard 10s. I don't run 10s unless I don't have anything else to run, just an FYI. But I am switching to 1.5 inch. The beauty of the LT40 standard is that you can run 1.5 inch or 1.25 inch, no change required, nothing different. You can literally switch from 1.25 inch to 1.5 inch and back to 1.25 inch if you want. Doesn't matter. And there are absolutely benefits for running 1.5 inch. So for example, I've had people call me up, say, hey, I'm gonna buy a mill should I get inch and a quarter, inch and a half bands? I tell them right off the bat, just go straight to inch and a half. Just do it. If you can afford to get the high, the high, what do they call them? High quality, high production rollers, whatever the heck they call them, then great. But the difference in quality you're going to get out of your lumber isn't that big of a difference between the two from all the guys I've talked to. So I would probably switch to them eventually. But the advantage of not doing it is you can still run inch and a quarters. So inch and a quarters, by the way, are better if you're trying to make 21-foot lumber on a mill, because if you run inch and a half, believe it or not, that half inch will kill you. Ask me how I know. All right. I already said hi to Bill. Thanks for coming out, Bill. Okay, Will, found it more profitable to sell kiln dry wood. White oak and cypress is plentiful around here, and you can work at your own pace. Yeah, I mean, lots of guys do that. I'll tell you one thing, and I see Rick from Two Brothers on here, so awesome to see you guys there. If you talk to Rick and Tim over at Two Brothers Outdoors, for the guys that sell, right now, I don't know, unless things have changed, they've been milling 2x6s like crazy out there. Tell me, Rick, if you've changed doing that or not yet, because these guys are milling 2x6s by the truckload. But it wasn't that long ago when it was all live edge slabs, right? And so the market changes a lot and that's one thing about being a small sawyer, like we are, is you can adapt and change to those markets very quickly. Somebody wants 400 2x6s, which I think was the total that I heard Rick and Tim say. Then you can just produce those and get them out to them. On the other hand, if the next day somebody wants some, 24-inch live edge one side slabs, well, guess what? You can make that too. So, and if you can kiln dry them, even better. I'm curious what kind of kiln you're running. If you're running, solar kiln, a home built kiln, if you're running an iDry, what are you running? I think iDry is probably the Cadillac of kilns. But let's see, 50 cents a board feet to saw logs, $50 setup fee, 50 cents a mile from my shop. That's what you're advertising, $60 an hour chainsaw tree up. What do you think? I think you're too dang cheap. Hey, Joe, nice to see you, buddy. I think you're too cheap. So, guys, if you want my contract, I'll tell you how to get it. Free of charge, no problem at all. Go to manlyportablemilling.com. It's a little bit quirky right now. The website needs a little bit of work, and I've been spending so much time making videos. I haven't been working on the website. But if you go to the website, my contract is there, and so is my rate card. And again, now, caveat here, I'm in an area where there weren't a lot of guys willing to go mobile. So if you're in an area where there's 100 other mobile guys, your prices might be more reasonable based on the market that you're in. But for me, my niche was going where other people wouldn't go. $100 an hour, $100 setup fee, $1 a mile, both directions. And I just said earlier, I would switch to $125 an hour now. So it'd be $125 setup fee, $125 an hour, $1 a mile in both directions. And by the way, if I'm on the site, I'm ready to go by 8 a.m. And if I'm not taking a break, which I do every 2 hours, I take a break every 2 hours. That's when I change the batteries in my cameras, right? Otherwise, I don't touch my cameras when I'm on the job. That's the customer doesn't pay me to make video. So that's why you get a lot of videos from me that are voiceovers, because I can't sit there and talk to a camera when I'm customers paying me, right? But what I do is I go 2 hours. That 2 hours from 8 to 10 a.m. That's on them. That's $200, or now it would be $250. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. If I'm sitting on my ass, excuse my language, waiting for someone to roll a log up to the mill, I'm getting $125 an hour. And I make dang sure that they understand that my job is to be there to run the sawmill. It's in my rate card. You are paying for the sawyer and the sawmill. You're paying for what's up here on how to make lumber out of your logs, the best, most proficient, and highest production method I can use to get those logs turned into lumber for you. But if you need me to carry a piece of wood, you need me to run my chainsaw, the price is the same. If you need me to wait for you because you're not ready, still $125 an hour. That's what you're going to pay. And once your customer understands that they're paying that rate, regardless of whether you're twiddling your thumbs or whether you're making sawdust, they're going to ask you to run your chainsaw less, unless they don't have one, unless that's just not something they can do. Then they understand they're going to pay you for that. So the big thing that I think I see, and trust me, I did this. My wife used to beat me up over it. When I have my little LT10 and I put it on a trailer, and I would say, well, I can't compete with the LT40 guys. I mean, those guys can mill over 500 board feet an hour. How am I supposed to compete with them with my little LT10 that's limited to, like, 21-foot logs, 24 inches in diameter? And if I get one of those on there, I'm going to be on it all day. And it took me a while to realize I was selling myself short. I was the guy, when they called, that was willing to drag my sawmill behind my Jeep up into the woods to their cabin. Nobody else was. So why should I sell myself short? And I found very quickly I didn't have to sell myself short. And it's all about what the market will bear, right? So think about that. Go to that Manly Portable Milling, check out my rate card, download it, copy it, put it in a Word, make your own copy of it. Same with my contract. I made everybody sign a contract. Even, I will admit, I had repeat customers that I would go to like 10 or 12 times. I didn't always make them sign a contract, because I was almost an employee at that point. So if he calls me up and says, hey, Eric, I need you to come out in the spring. Okay, I'll be there. But I also knew he was going to pay me because I'd been there so many times. It was never an issue. So first time, absolutely. Even maybe the second time or third time, you're going to sign a contract. Here's the contract. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, they understand what they're paying for. No questions asked. So, all right, what do we got here? We got sup to bro. Oh, I read the comments down below to see how I'm doing, just to see what's going on. Ain't starving, but could use some biz. Yeah, two brothers, you guys have been going crazy. People who swear by force don't know to use a blade guide alignment tool. Oh, who wrote that? Oh, is that Will? Will. I love fours. I'm not gonna say I swear by them. I've got 9s, 10s, 7s, 4s, 739s, 747s. Tried them all. I love my fours, but I also know how to align my mill. And you'll notice in my videos, I am always talking about having confidence in your alignment in your mill. In fact, I've done a couple of videos on how to do the alignment on the LT40, and one of them in the field, because sometimes you have to do that, right? If you don't know how to get your blade alignment right, and I have the tools to do it. I don't use a gauge. I know guys like Chris, he loves his gauge. I actually use Wood Miser's tool, and it works fine. It takes measurements. You got to adjust some things, but if your mill's aligned right, then 4s, 7s, 10s, they all have their place. That's what my belief is. That's why I have so many different ones. One, because I like to try them. Two, because you don't know whether or not 7s or 747s or 10s or 9s or 4s or whatever are going to work for you or not unless you've tried them. People can tell you what they think, but if you don't actually try them yourself, how do you know for real? You don't. Now, granted, if you've got a 10 horsepower mill, you better stick with 10s, right? I mean, 739s, I think, are supposed to be the 25 up horsepower category or something like that. Now, I do know some Wood Miser sales reps out there that swear that 739s are fine on a 19 horse, motor. Maybe they are. But again, unless you tried it, you don't know. Worth a try, right? But the question I would have is, can you tell the difference between a 739 and a 7 and a 747? I will tell you that I ran 7s a lot, and Joe Main's the man when it comes to getting bands, by the way, and he's here still, unless he's gone to bed. He's over there in Georgia, and even out here in Washington. That's where to get your bands, Joe Main. But Joe and I had a good conversation about bands, and I decided just to stick with 7s, even though I've run 739s. I think they're great. I think 747s are great, although 747s did put a lot more sawdust right in my face. But I think with my mill, with the 26.5 horse motor, I really didn't see a big enough difference between 739s, 747s, and 7s that I decided, to heck with it, I'm just going to go with 7s, stick with 7s and move on. And I know a lot of guys that have done that. So is there a difference? I'm sure there is. For the 51 horse cat guys, I bet there could be a big difference. But the 26.5 horse guys, probably not going to notice it. So several orders. Yes, still several. Let's see. Both mills running, trying to keep up. Yeah, I've noticed that. Absolutely, buddy. Let's see. Got to run. Okay, Bill, good to see you, buddy. Does Mill have 19-inch band wheels? Oh, good to see you there, Joe. I don't even know what the heck the size of my band wheels are. It's funny. I know there are guys that are like sawmill. I don't know what you would call them. They're like the hot rod guys. They know every set of Holly carburetors ever made. I couldn't tell you what size my band wheels are. Sorry. I just make sawdust. And when I need something, I call Woodmiser up. So there you go. You sell a lot of 739s, very few 747s. I'm surprised by that, by the way. Hey, Andy, nice to see you, buddy. I'm going to get this right one of these days, Andy. I'm going to say you're down there in Georgia with Joe Main. But the last time I said that, you said, no, I was wrong about that. So, but anyway, so I'm surprised, Joe, that not that many 747s, because I'll be honest, I actually really liked the 747s. The only problem I had with them is I ate a lot more sawdust. They do seem to move the sawdust really well. But I think if you'd have compared the 737s and the 739s from cutting standpoint, I don't think there's a big difference. So that's why, and we talked about it, I think, oh gosh, probably last year sometime, that I decided to go with straight sevens all the way. So good to see you, Craig. Saw you down there. All right, what other questions we got? We've been going pretty good here. This is holy smokes, we're running at half an hour. We got a good audience, guys. Tell me where you're from. Let me know who's here, and whatever questions you got. That's what this is. So if you've never joined one of these before, I usually do a channel update early on. It's already been done. And from here on out, it's straight up. Any questions you got, they can be about sawing, they can be about cabin building, they can be about life, YouTube. I don't care. I answer whatever questions you have. It's an open book. So you want to know something about the old Jarhead? I'll answer it as long as I can. Louisville. See, I don't know why. I'm going to get it right one of these days. Maybe you told me that you were near Augusta or something. Well, wait, Louisville, not Kentucky then. If you're 40 miles south of Augusta, you are in Georgia. So maybe I was right. See, now you got to tell me. I know we're the same age, and I think you're a bourbon drinker too. It's Old Forester tonight, by the way. I don't know if you guys have ever had Old Forester, but that is my favorite bourbon. Though Old Forester Statesman is the number one. That's my top. I love it, bourbon. But see, I'll even talk bourbon, guys. But all right, what do we got here? What questions? What do you want to know? That's what I'm here for. There was something I was going to tell you guys though, and I got off on another tangent here, answering questions, which is why I'm here. But there was something I was going to tell you, and well, I'll tell you this while I'm waiting for questions. Does Joe Main sharpen? No, Joe does not. He can answer it himself. There he is, right there. He does sell the equipment, but he doesn't sharpen. Now, I will tell you, depending on where you are, there are people that are doing sharpening. I know Marty Parsons, who's in Pennsylvania. They're still doing it. So, let me know where you are. We could probably help you out on finding somebody. But let's see, clearing a couple small lots, said I can cut and have the trees free, maybe 15 to 30 trees worth dragging out. I might rent a tractor and skid them out. Well, how big are the trees? Are they good size? I mean, what are we talking here? A hardwood, softwoods, I'd like to know. But okay, so where was I? I think I was going to talk about. I finally got to building my log yard, and I did this a little bit earlier in my channel update, but I managed to finally get my sawmill in the log yard and get it set up, and even do some milling. And I'm when I say some, I mean one log. And for me, that's like I think that's if it weren't for when I lived at the cabin, I would say that's a record. But those that don't know, that are kind of new to the channel, when I was first milling and I had my little LT10 that was on a trailer, so we're talking after, this is 2013, 2014 timeframe. I was living at my cabin and working out of one of the nearest towns, about 45 miles away. And I used to come home from work at the end of the day change into my milling clothes and mill up a log and then go have dinner. And, by then it was dark. And so, I would do whatever the evening stuff was. And then the next day I would do it all over again. So, excuse me, 18-inch pines. Nice. Oh, cedar, poplar. Okay. Firewood stuff available. I mean, if you've got pines that are 18 inches, did you say Louisiana? Boy, I'm terrible, guys. So I'm scrolling back up to see because I think you did tell me where you were. You're not down there by Rick, are you? Let's see. East Tennessee. That's where you're at. Okay. So it must be, you got some SIP. I'm just reading Rick's comment here. Paul Z, Northeast Connecticut. Nice. Okay. So yeah, Tennessee, you probably got SIP. I mean, that's good construction wood right there. So yes, Rick, it must be 19s. I use the B57s and just put a B57 out and placed the neoprene belt. Oh, okay. Yeah, B57s are the standard belt for the LT40s. And one of the things I was mentioning is they got to be swapped from idle to drive side. A lot of guys don't do that, and you've got to do that, right? So that video about band brakes, and the funny thing is that wasn't my intention to make that video about band brakes, and that's what happens with my videos, guys. If you haven't watched a lot of them, you'll find that I may start off on one topic and work in another one while I'm at it, because that's just the way I am. It's like, squirrel, here, talk about this. Whatever's on my mind is usually what I'm going to talk about. But in that video, I kind of got into this because I see all these guys on social media. I'm breaking bands. And they would blame the band manufacturer. And I was like, no, wait a minute. This is crazy. Why are you breaking bands? I don't break bands. I mean, I'm one or two. Okay. But, and that's why I started talking about, switching your drive, your B57 belts on your band wheels from drive to idle and back, that's one of the things you got to do. Cleaning out the groove on those band wheels got to be done, right? Making sure things are aligned right. And all that stuff, tension. Now, I'm going to tell you something. And Kevin, does the belt run loose? Yes, it does. Yeah. Kevin, when you see the videos that are going to be coming up doing this Black Forest oak, Kevin's running at times like 3,500 pounds on his belt tension. Unbelievably high tension. But it works for him, and he's really good at replacing band wheel bearings. So, I mean, I try not to run over 3,000 pounds. It'll go over that occasionally, especially with pine, because pine tends to build up on the band wheel belts. And so, when I see it start creeping up 3,400 pounds, I just start tapping it back down to 3,000 pounds and keep going. I don't worry about it. Yeah, the belt, absolutely. So the belt is supposed to run loose, and it's enough that I'm going to say that when everything is set up right, you could probably put your fingers through the loose side, one or two or something like that. I'd have to go and look at it closer, but and I tell you this because when I put a band on, one of the things I have to do on the idle side is I have to actually grab the belt. And what I usually do is I push it up a little bit on the bottom and I grab the belt up top and I pull the belt up and then I slip the band underneath it. So you can literally grab the belt and move them. You can also grab the belt and rotate them. So my brake is tight enough that I can't rotate the drive side. So, but I can literally slide the belt easily around the drive side band wheel. So, I mean, that's no problem. Neoprene belts don't run loose, but they're softer. Interesting. Yeah. Well, try the B57s. I mean, you may find you'll like them. If you've got 19-inch band wheels and they fit in the grooves just fine, you might like them. I always have 2 spare B57s with me. They're in my box. So I made a box for my bands, a flat box for my bands. And I always have my band gauge in there so that I can, if for some reason I didn't paint my bands, and yes, folks, I paint my bands. So if you don't do this and you got different kinds of bands, I highly recommend doing it because it's really easy to see. I'm going to be talking about that in an upcoming video. But for you guys, since you're here, I paint my 4s with orange paint. And I'll just do a nice blob of orange paint on both sides of the band somewhere. And I do my 7s with yellow, and I don't paint my 10s or 9s because I don't need to. But that way I always know what band I'm using. And why did I start talking about? See, this is what happens. I get off on a track. Probably talking about bands on the band wheels. I don't even know anymore. Oh, well, I was talking about Kevin. The other thing you're going to see in those videos is he was running his chain on his chainsaw so loose it was funny, and he was like, I'm not going to bother with it, and I was cracking up over it. He'd run it into metal 2 or 3 times, but that thing was still cutting really well. So I don't know what chain Kevin's using, but I mean it hit metal a few times. But anyway, it's going to be a fun video. I mean, because there's some big logs in there for you to see, and he pushed that wide head really hard, that one. So that's coming up. But what other questions you got? What other stories? I mean, I don't know if you guys heard, but they're thinking of introducing grizzly bears not far from my cabin. Oh boy, that'll be fun, right? I've already had black bears come running up the hill at me. Now I might have to start carrying a 454 when I'm out milling. Get ticked off Mama Grizz out there, and I'd be out there with my 454 instead of my little pea shooter. As somebody called it a little pea shooter, and I said, you call it a 45 a pea shooter? I don't think a 45 is a pea shooter. Or you call it a pepper box. That's what it was. I was like, pepper box? I don't think so. All right. We're really going down a rabbit hole now, guys. What questions have you got? We're at 46 minutes. So Grizzlies, where am I at? Oh, Washington State. So my sawmill right now is within 20 miles of the Canadian border. It is east of the Cascade Mountains in what's known as the Okanagan Highlands. And so it's up at about 3,200 feet. And I'm probably less than 50 miles, maybe only 20 or 30 miles from where they want to release grizzly bears back into Washington State. And a grizzly bear can roam 150 miles, right? So big cuddly bear. Oh yeah, they love to hug you. All right. I grew up in British Columbia, guys. So if you haven't noticed the sorry instead of sorry, or occasionally there was a video I put out fighting gophers using the gopher bombs backwards, and I didn't know it because I got handed them. Here, try these. Didn't really read the instructions. Since I've learned how to turn them around and use them right, but somebody caught the A that occasionally comes out. They're like, those boys are from Canada. No, but I did grow up there. So any squatch up that way. There is a very large population of people that believe that there are Sasquatches up here. This is like Sasquatch Central. If you didn't know that, Oregon and Washington and probably British Columbia are like serious Sasquatch country. And some believe it's because it's so sparsely populated, right? Especially in British Columbia, but even up where I'm at, right? There's just not a lot of people that live there. Like you look at Washington State, and I think there's like 7 million people here, and 7 million of them live in Seattle, right? So the rest of us, the few that are left, live in the other part of the state. That's we have two sides of the state, the wet side and the dry side. Well, we're on the dry side. Hey, there's the Arrowhead. How you doing, buddy? We're talking about 454, Sasquatch, grizzly bears, and bourbon. It doesn't get any better than this. Oh, good Lord. I was also talking about winter milling. So, we're going to have a little competition about some winter milling coming up. Come and see if I can compete with your video of doing milling in 2 feet of snow. Oh, gosh. Let me see here. What do we got here? Now I am looking for questions, so don't be shy. Throw them out there. I answer any questions you have, folks. If you haven't figured it out, we've been talking about Sasquatch, grizzly bears, bourbon, 454s. And if you don't know what a 454 is, just ask. And what else have we talked about? You have Sasquatch, squash. You have squash. Well, squash is different now. I mean, squash you eat, right? We're talking squash. In the DAX, yeah, squash. We found one a burl. Yeah, I saw the burl you did with John. That was hilarious. That actually really kind of looked like a Sasquatch. So if you guys don't know, Two Brothers Outdoors and John Davis from Davidson's All Natural Gym, who said he was going to be here tonight too. They did a video on doing a burrow. I want to say it was a burrow. Oh, there he is. He's here. And they've got, I mean, it looks like a picture of Bigfoot right on that burrow. That's awesome. So do I have Joe Main's number? I do. Joe Main, did you go to sleep or are you still here? I always try to let Joe answer that if he's here, but give me a second because I believe I have him in my phone. And if I don't, then I'm a dumb hit. Oh yeah, right there. Look at that. Let me type it out for you. Ready? It's 229 563. I'm surprised Craig didn't beat me to it. 1172. Bang. There you go. 229 563 1172. Joe Main. Joe Main's a good guy, folks. And he doesn't sponsor me, so just so you know, I mean, he's just a good guy. Let's see what else we got. Processing a deer, so that's why you're late. Are you going to send some my way? My thumbs don't work anymore, so I can't really skin a deer, and I quit hunting deer because of my thumbs. You probably could see this bump right here. That's the bone sticking out the wrong way. So I have no grip in my thumbs. It's bad, guys. I'm a busted up old jarhead. What do you expect? So no getting the deers. I keep thinking about it, and I have friends be like, oh, I'll do it for you. And I'm like, yeah, but my cabin's like 240 miles away. So, and that's where I'd go. If I'm going to go hunting, I'm going to the cabin. Unless my son wanted to go hunting 70 miles east of here, I'd go with him and he could skin it. But, he hasn't been really doing that. So what else we got? There's still something I was going to tell you guys about, and I keep it's slipping my brain because and it's good because you guys keep asking questions, so that's why it's slipping my brain. Vice grips, yeah, I might be able to learn how to do it with vice grips, but the problem is I got to the point where my idea of hunting deer was I wanted to be able to sit on my cabin deck, right under the cover, and like have my table next to me for my bourbon and my rifle to my left of me. And then if the deer came out within shooting distance and they waited long enough for me to take a good look at them to decide if I really wanted to take, if they, broadside, just stand there, kind of look at me, maybe do one of these numbers, then I could think about shooting them. I have a hard enough time on, I could just see it right now. I'd be out walking with my cane trying to, I need one of those canes with the fork on top so that when I'm not using my cane to walk with it, I can set my rifle on the forks to shoot one with. But the hot tub, no, I ain't doing the hot tub. So, all right, where are we at here? We are at 53 minutes already. Holy cow. So let's get some questions in. We had some good ones tonight. So there's quite a few of you out there still. So ask away any questions you got for me. I always try to answer them. When am I going to do another live with Rick and Tim and Mike Wilson? I don't know. Mike's not here tonight, but he hasn't agreed to come out and fall trees for me. So I don't know if I'm going to do a live with Mike yet. You guys haven't worked over Mike hard enough yet. So that's your job. You're supposed to, go to Mike Wilson's videos and put comments in there like, hey, when are you going to go help the old jarhead out? Let's see if we can't get him out there. I mean, if you guys saw me try to do a Humboldt knots when falling trees, I mean, I'm telling you what, I'd make Rick and Tim look like professionals. I'm just kidding, guys. Seriously. No, it's kind of bad. And actually, I was thinking about his latest video where he talked about trying to do the other way, what he called the East Coast way, which actually I've seen lots of guys on the West Coast do it that way. And he was kind of laughing about it. But, when you've only cut that way, learning how to do a Humboldt is a little different. And the funny thing, I can do a Humboldt on smaller stuff. But as soon as I get into the big stuff, I miss all the time and just make it mess out of it. So you're on the way. Oh, I have to do a Humboldt. I'd love to fall some big trees. Hey, you come on out here. Even my little trees are big for a lot of guys. Well, right now, I'm only falling stuff right now, and most of them are smaller. I mean, they're probably still 60 to 80 feet tall. But most of them are probably in the 12 to 18 inch range, the good stuff that I'm falling. I mean, I've got that one tree that's over 42 inches in diameter at just height. That's a big one, but I'm not going to fall that guy. Most of the stuff I probably have some 2-foot stuff still, but where my cabin is, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but it's arid there. It's fairly dry. We probably don't get more than 14 inches of rain a year. That's why there's so much ponderosa pine there, and ponderosa pine can get huge. It could get 5-6 feet across, but it was all logged off sometime about 100 years or more ago. So there's not a lot of those big ponderosas where I'm at anymore. So that's why that big one that's 42 inches, that's a big tree up there. Now, Craig did straighten me out and send me a couple pictures. That's Kilted Sawyer down there. He's on here somewhere, where he's got some big ones that are look like they're about 5 feet across. So let's see. You got a 42-inch bar on your big Husky. 42. Which Husky's that? 395, I'm thinking maybe. I'm running a 28 on my 572. And I have a 32 that I had on my 576. And I've thought about putting it on my 572 when I'm quartering up big logs, but the 28's been doing it for me. So unrelated to deer hunting, my band wheel belts have been almost peeling apart. Do you ever have this problem? I saw a lot of pine with water and pine saw. How long have you been running those band wheel belts? That's the question. Do you rotate them? And if so, how long have you been running them? Because I run pine saw, dish liquid, and water. I've been running it since 2011. No problems at all on band wheel belts. But I rotate my band wheel belts generally every 10 to 20 hours. Probably Woodmiser says 20 hours. I don't remember. But if I see wear on the drive side, I automatically start to switch them. And so I'll swap them. And then when I see the drive side start to wear a little bit more, I'll swap them again. So I just swap them periodically. A lot of times what I do after a big job, I pull them off. And I generally pull them off every day anyway. But after a big job, I pull them off and I really go through the V-notch on the band wheel belts, make sure there's no crud build up under there, because pine is notorious for sap and sawdust building up in that V groove and building little bumps up in there. So you go in there and you got to clean it out, and it's a pain in the butt on the drive side, which is where it happens. It never happens on the idle side. It's always the drive side. So I clean that off, and then I really clean the band wheel belts well, and then I look at them, and I put the better band wheel belt on the drive side. The more tore up one goes on the idle side, and I just repeat that process ad nauseum. But I always carry extra band wheel belts. So I've probably got 3 sets of band wheel belts at least. So mine never get to that point. But let's see, white pine, 3120 XP. I'm not familiar with that one. Yeah, so we've got Arrowhead. He's got a LT25, LT25, I think. Yeah, pine is terrible for that. It really is. 3120, huh? So the 3120, how many cc's is that? Oh, LT28. Okay, gotcha. All right. 36 to 38 inch pine. Wow. We're running into red rot, so we leave them. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, LT28. So yeah, how I mean, if you're doing pine, talk to me, L Cates. How long have you been running them? Don't be shy. Hey, you know what? If you've been running them for 300 hours that way, don't be shy. It's okay, right? You got to learn. If you're running them for 20 hours and they're doing that, then I'd probably want to ask some more questions, because they shouldn't do that. If you're running B57s and they're coming apart on you and they're 100 hours or newer, something's not right. Oh, there you are. About 70 hours I got on out of them. I rotated them, but thought they would last at least 100 to 150 hours. They will. I'd want to know more. LT40, I'm guessing, or LT35. Jones Red 920. Nice. So I think if you rotate them about every 20 hours, And if you're still having problems, then I'd want to know how far is the gullet off of them, right? Your gullet should be about an eighth of an inch away from the band wheel belt. So I'd want to know, have you looked at that? If they're shredding in 70 hours, something's wrong. Definitely something's not right. So I'd start to look at all my alignment and those kind of things. If I'm rotating, if you're rotating your band wheel belts about every 20 hours or so, and you're watching that drive side, if it's starting to get worn, and you're rotating it to the idle side and rotating idle to drive and so on, they should last longer. And I honestly couldn't tell you how long I get out of them, because I just don't look at it that way, because you can have a band wheel belt on for 1 hour and rip it in half. Ask me how I know. So I have spares, and if they start to wear, they're coming off and the new ones are going on. That's one of the reasons why I talk about the pricing in maintenance in your cost when you're milling for somebody, right? If you're going out on a mobile job, the price that you're charging them is not your wage. It's your sawmill's wage, it's Uncle Sam's wage, and it's your wage. And that's part of that's part of the sawmill's wage part, right? So let's see, what is a good blade to cut West Coast cedar highline poles? 36-inch old growth. Well, I would start with a sevens. I like sevens. I've done lots of cedar with sevens. But that was interesting. My whole screen just flickered. I'm not sure why. But I would absolutely start with 7 degrees. They work well for me. I've done a lot of Western red cedar, and the only challenge I've ever had with Western red cedar, now not poles, mind you, but was stress in them, because a lot of times they come off a hillside, and so you got to watch them. I've actually had them where I read the stress, or actually I've had them where they're perfectly straight. Some of my videos from about a year and a half ago were doing Western red cedar in Mullen, Idaho, and these were straight, nice straight logs, and I would set them up, split them, and they would just move all wrong, so I'd split them again. And and that's kind of the crazy days of splitting cants as often as I did. I don't really do that anymore. But let's see, this saw is too big, bucks 4-foot oak like butter. Yeah. Wood Miser says rotate every 50 hours. However, they recommend you clean them and under them every blade change. Yeah, I would agree with the cleaning, absolutely. So you might as well rotate belts every blade change. Yeah, no, you're that's almost what I do now, John. I say 20 hours because I don't know I haven't looked it up in so long, but because I rotate them quite often. But again, I do it by sight too. So, I rotate them constantly. Okay, buddy. Have a good night, Rick. Thanks for being here. Tim, too, if you're there. You guys have a good night. But so Paul Z, yeah. So you're talking poles though. So I'm guessing you say highline poles, so you're talking power poles. The only thing about power poles is get a good metal detector on them, because they can have a lot of metal in them. So you got to watch that. Whether they're foam poles or power poles doesn't matter either, right? As long as there's no creosote. I won't do creosote myself. A lot of guys do, but I won't. Oh yeah, they're full. They're terrible. Old Forester. All right, where are we at here? We're at just over an hour. So let's get some more. Now, guys, Bass Reeves is on for us tonight. So we don't have regular TV. We only have it on the internet. So we don't get to watch it on Saturday. We watch it on Sunday. So I told my wife, I said, well, we're gonna watch some Bass Reeves tonight. So I won't do a 2.5 hour live. So got any other questions? Throw them out there now. Let's try to get your last questions in before I call it a night, guys. It's been fun though. It's been a good time. Try to rotate them more often. Yeah, I would do that. Also, if you only have one set of B57s, do yourself a favor, get another set now. Especially if you go mobile. When I first started running mobile on the LT40, I didn't have any spares of anything with me. And I remember a job I did up out near Lake Chelan. I can't remember the name of the road right now. It might come to me. It's a weird one, like Peter Dan, but it's not Peter Dan. That's another job. But so I'm out on this job. My mill's still pretty shiny. I think it's probably the second year of running the LT40, and I did something. I don't remember what happened, but the band came off. Whatever, right? Who knows? Something happened. Band comes off, and it ripped that B57 belt in half. Just ripped it in half and threw it out. And so here I am, 150 miles from home on a mobile job, no B57s, no spares. Went to, and it was like a Saturday, but I want to say it might have been a holiday weekend. So the auto parts stores, some of them I don't even think were open. None of them had B57 belts. Small town, right? So I ended up having to pull off the job because I couldn't finish the job. Now I did go back and finish the job another weekend, and I just didn't charge them, anything for traveling back and forth and setting up again. And ever since then, I've always carried an extra set of B57s with me at all times. So, mostly mobile. What items other than belts do you typically keep with you? Um, uh, fuel filter, air filters, obviously oil, the usual stuff. And by the way, I did do a video called What I Take, and it has pretty much everything I take with me. Now, I will tell you, I'm not like some guys. Kevin, who you see, he'll be in some of my upcoming videos. He's got 2,300 hours on his LT40 now, and it's his third mill. So, he's milled over 1 million board feet. He actually carries quite a bit of spares with him. He carries like extra band wheel bearing. He carries, quite a bit extra. I carry a drive belt. So I carry a spare drive belt with me. I carry B57s. I carry, oh gosh, other than filters, that's about it. Obviously hydraulic fluid, oil, all those things, tools, a full tool kit. I carry my manuals with me. They go with me on the job. All of my, gauges, anything else that I need to do maintenance in the field, I carry, but I'm not one of those guys that carries a hydraulic pump with him in the field. Major repairs, I'm going to do at home, but if it's something simple, I will do it in the field. I will align the mill in the field. I've done it more than once. Done it a few times. I'll check, drive belt tension in the field. Done it many times. I've adjusted my drive belt tension and brake in the field many times. But you look at your high wear items. Those are the things that you always want to consider. But a fuel filter you can get at a local shop, but if it's a Sunday, you ain't gonna get one. So it's good to have one of those. I actually had a job, Mullen, Idaho, didn't have a spare fuel filter on me. Fuel filter plugged up. Ended up having to stop the job, drive a half an hour away, and pick up a fuel filter, and then drive that half a mile back and put the new fuel filter in. So something to think about. But check out, there's a video, you could try to find it. It's in my business section, I think, maybe maintenance too, but there's a playlist. If you look at my channel, you'll see playlists. One of them is about running a portable sawmill business, and there's a video there, and I think it's like what I bring or something like that. And I go through every single thing that I typically bring on a job, though not really spares, but that might help. Let's see. Agreed. Keep 2 sets of band belts on hand. Yep. At all times. Yep. Break one blade and you can lose all 3 belts. Oh yeah, absolutely. Old Forester, good stuff. I'm in an Oktoberfest IPA sort of dude. I'll try OF. Dad is a Yukon Jackman. Yeah, OF is it's bourbon. So if you don't mind bourbon whiskey tends to have a bite to it. I actually mix mine. I know it's a cardinal sin. I love to not mix it, but if I don't mix it, I drink more than I should. So I've learned to mix it so I don't drink as much. Too sweet for your taste. Bourbons, could be. Great info, you bet, buddy. Absolutely. What's the website again? manlyportablemilling.com. Here, I'll type it for you. Kind of hard to type over the microphone in my bourbon glass. It might even work. Look at that. Try that link. There, let's Let's try it together. I'll click it and make sure it actually works. Bingo. There you go. Now let me find, boom, rate card. Here you go. I'm going to share some links with you so you don't have to go look for them because the site's a little bit broken. So there's my rate card right there. And right here is my contract. And you are welcome to grab it, change it, modify it, make it work for you. Hope it helps you out. It's worked for me pretty well. I'll be honest with you. I didn't create it by myself. When I was making the transition from milling for myself and milling as a job for other people, I went out and I looked at every portable sawyer's website I could find. Looked on Craigslist, looked all over, talked to guys on Forestry Forum, and I looked for guys that were willing to share their contracts, and I took theirs and modified them to make my own. And over the years, I've changed it a little bit here and there, but you'll notice some things. And I was even talking to Kevin about this just this week, because he was down here and we were talking about minimums. And I said, well, I don't travel over 100 miles for less than 8 hours. I'm not driving 250 miles for 2 hours worth of work. Not going to happen. My rule, and you'll see it in that rate card, I want to say it's 50 miles or under 100 miles, I think is a minimum 4 hours. Over 100 miles, and it's 8 hours minimum. So if you got 2 logs, you're still going to pay me 8 hours times 125 plus 125 to set up plus $1 an hour both ways. Nobody to talk to anymore on MeWe. Yeah, sorry, I left MeWe. I will tell you this. It's a crying shame. I left MeWe, and I think I posted my reasons why. And I had left Facebook years ago. I went back to Facebook for my channel, my YouTube channel. And I will tell you, I still don't like Facebook. But I do it to communicate with people on the channel. That's the only reason I'm there. So I do post in the community notes. So if you don't know this, I post in the community notes on my channel, and I'll throw this plug out there for all you guys there that don't know this. I am doing channel memberships. So you may have noticed Davidson's All Natural Gym. There's a big star. Their name's in blue. He is a channel member. And channel members get to see things. So like the video that went out yesterday, that actually went out on Tuesday. And now I will say that for members, what I do is I put all my new videos out ad-free until they go live for everybody else. So right now with doing 3 videos a week, sometimes it's hard to get those out very early. Sometimes they only go out, 12 hours ahead of time. I think John pointed out one time it went out 7 hours in advance. And I try not to do that. I try to get them out at least a day or two, but often if I can get them out longer, that's the plan. Eventually, I will release them a week ahead of time to members, and they go to members, no advertising. The other thing is there's more. I have posts that go out to members only. So a lot of older videos, a lot of videos that I decided are I put them together, and what I actually do, and you guys probably don't know this, but what I do is I'll post a video to members so that I can watch it and double check my own work. And so then I might edit it, and usually it means shortening. So if you like longer content, you'll see more of that as a member without advertising. So just something to consider, but there will be more going out for members. It's like a Patreon, support the channel. But I definitely will do more communicating with members, by the way. So something to think about. Extra blade rollers. Yeah, if you run a lot, that's absolutely the way to go. I know a lot of guys do that. I'm the oddball out where I don't. So, all right. Well, guys, we are almost at an hour and 15 minutes. I got 30 seconds. Last question. If you can get more than one in 30 seconds, I'll answer them. But right now it's shotgun blast for questions. So you put them down in the chat. I'm going to answer every question I can, but you got only 10 seconds now to get your questions out. I don't think you're going to get any out. So I will wait until a few more seconds, but good to get together, Eric. Yes. Oh, get together. I'm not going to go just yet. Wait a minute. So there is something I've been thinking about. I've talked about doing a need another drink. Subscriber get together in the past. I have an idea for one for anybody. We can talk shotgun. See what happens. If people want to get together and you're within a reasonable distance, I should be making roughs on lumber for Shaniko Ghost Town this coming spring. And I thought it would be fun to use that as a get together with subscribers, and any members will get some extra perks there. But if anybody is interested, keep an eye out. Let me know. I'm probably going to start posting some stuff, maybe on Facebook, but more likely in my community page here. And I'll look at other ways to communicate it, maybe mention it in some more videos. But I'm thinking it would be really fun. It would be a camp out type thing, but there is a hotel there that you can stay in as well. And for channel members, if they want to run my sawmill, I'm going to let you run my mill. Absolutely. 100%. Get behind the controls, throw down, make lumber with it. If no channel members are there, well, then subscribers, if you're there, then you're going to get to run the mill. But channel members get first gigs. But yeah, I'm going to be out there, and I thought, what a great way to get folks together and hang out and camp out and have a good time and have a few bourbons and run the sawmill. Not in that order, but where it's in Oregon, in Eastern Oregon. I know that's a little far from you, but it'll be in Shaniko, Oregon. So if you look up, I just did a video recently on Shaniko, the hotel. So Darcy and I stayed in the hotel. It's a haunted hotel. But it is on about milepost. If you turn south around milepost 104, I think it is, on Interstate 84. So you're probably milepost like 1,000, somewhere around there. But around milepost 104, you turn south and drive for an hour on Highway 97 to Shaniko, and that's where I think we're going to do it. So it's in the middle of nowhere. There's not a lot of airports nearby. But it could be a lot of fun. So if anybody thinks they might be interested in doing a hotel stay or camping out, this is going to be the opportunity to do that. So, all right, shotguns, 2 870s, one a 3.5 inch Magnum, Super Magnum Express, one a 3-inch Wingmaster Magnum. Don't have any more shotguns because I have more of the single projectile type things than shotguns. I would love a side-by-side 12. That's my all-time favorite. I used to love grouse hunting with a side-by-side. It was a 2 3/4 inch chambered, Russian made, open hammers. Loved that gun. No, it wasn't open hammers. That one was just double triggers. I actually do have, I forgot. I do have a 120-year-old, I want to say it might be a Stevens, but it was made around between 1900 and 1909, though there's some question it may have been made between 1911 and 1915. It's a side-by-side open hammer, dual trigger, and 2.5 inch, 2.5 or 2 1/4, 2.5 inch 12. I didn't even know they made 2.5s. So you can actually still buy shells for it, but I tried to port the barrels out because they were badly pitted. Because, guys used to just take their shotguns and lean them against the cabin, and they'd be outside all day long, and eventually the rust gets in there and it pits the barrels. And so these barrels are badly pitted. So even after trying to hone them, I couldn't clean them up enough to put rounds through them, and I decided I wasn't going to do that. They're thin-walled as it is, and they're just too badly pitted. But it sits up on the wall. So, oh yeah, you enjoyed that. Well, there you go. Hey, you got a camper, right? If not, they got a hotel. It might be fun. Could be just like, 2 or 3 of us out there hanging out, which would be great. But, all right, guys, listen, it's time to go watch Bass Reeves with my wife. So appreciate y'all being here. Been a good time. I really enjoyed it. I will try to do more of these, and y'all have a great night. more videos coming. Tuesday's the next one. It'll drop out on Tuesdays. That one is going to be a cabin one with some milling in it, using wood that I milled 1.5 years ago to do some cabin work. So that should be fun. And then, of course, more milling coming up. So lots of milling coming up. So good to talk to you, folks. Thanks for being here. Y'all have a good night.